Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Candy and Kev Car Conversation. Happy Monday to you. Glad to see you're able to join us. I apologize for the last video. Something went wrong with it. I don't know. Every now and then having technical difficulties. But thanks you guys for hanging in there with us. It's Monday. As my church folk would say, my saints would say, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning, Yolanda. How are you this morning? Good morning, Carol. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Lori, good morning. How are you? I'm happy to see y'all. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for joining us. We don't take it for granted. You could be actually somewhere else, but you have decided to join the Candy and Kev Car Conversation. And for that, I say thank you. Thank you for all our loyal individuals, Yolanda, Anna, Lori, all of y'all, Carol, Ernest, Celeste. If I start naming people, which I already did, I'm going to forget somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and stop right now. Naming people, Vernon, because I don't want to forget nobody. Mom is doing great. She actually, I saw her yesterday, and she was having a little pain in the her area where they had to put, where they're going in at. But she's doing. The heart is in excellent condition. They believe that it was my mom suffers with sarcoidosis, I believe that it's called, a breathing condition, and she wasn't taking her medication because she said it makes her hyper. So that might have been what some of the setback was. I didn't brush my hair, y'all. Y'all forgive me, y'all. I'll be trying to make sure I get here on time for y'all, because I don't like be late for nothing. I don't like being late. So, major, I want to give special condolences and to my good friend Teddy. Thank you. Sorry about that, y'all. Where I'm sitting at right now, for some reason, out of nowhere, it becomes a bad area. So just bear with us for a few seconds. We're actually ready to move now. She showed up. That's all I'm gonna say. But yes, excellent service last night for Uncle Mel. I didn't call him Uncle Mel. I used to call him Dad, Pop Herder. Just started over because it wouldn't change.
Oh, do I have to reshare it then?
I'm actually looking to do that now.
It was black and white. That was interesting.
Yeah, everything was messed up.
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, it was having a hard time. So yes, condolences to my brother Teddy.
Good morning, everybody.
To my brother Teddy. And they actually going to lay his final rest today in Veterans Cemetery. Your video finished upload. I didn't upload a video. Today, so there we go. Sorry about us going in and out. We apologize. We're in a bad area. Yes, condolences to him and his family. Job well done on the funeral. I don't know how he did it. He gave excellent remarks about his father last night. Excellent remarks. I don't know if I could do that. But definitely a great funeral. Definitely he will be missed. So that's that with that. They said they love your hair, Candy.
Thank you.
They love your hair. So good morning, everybody. Again, this is the Candy and Kev.
Because I don't see it on your page.
This is the Candy and Kev Car Conversation.
I got it there.
And we thank you guys for joining us this morning. This is our first full weekend, pretty much childless. Y'all, my son is down in Howard University. He's definitely exploring the college life. I'm sure he has having a good time so far. We got a call yesterday. My wife will tell you. Oh my
gosh! Okay.
And I entitled this one.
Thank you guys. This is me all in the natural here. I just kind of when I got in the shower, I was like, I'm gonna go for a run after work today, and straight hair is not conducive to a run. But go ahead, I'm sorry. I was gonna tell everybody. So, what I
called this particular one called "What's Going On America."
So, got a call. No, I didn't. First of all, I got a text. So yesterday morning, while I was in church, I guess. Was I in church when I got it? I don't remember. Or no. I had just gotten out of church. So everybody knows we just dropped our son off at Howard University last Thursday. And so I am getting acclimated to becoming an HBCU attendee's mom. Because my text today was, Mom, yesterday was, I got a text, Mom, we're going to Charlottesville. I wanted to give you a heads up before you saw my face, possibly see my face on CNN in a crowd. And I was like, I'm texting like, what? Where are you going? Ah! And I'm like, being mom, I'm texting back, and he know it was serious because I used his full name. When I say Corey Allen, he knows I mean business. And I'm texting him, what do you mean? Who are you going with? Blah, 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 blah. So, and then I text his mentor. I text his mentor the text that I've received, like, what does this mean? Because I'm being mom, and, racism is well alive and kicking here. We were never in a post-racial environment. I don't know, just because elected
we got a black president,
Barack Obama, we were never in a post-racial environment. So I don't understand why why people ever said that. But so his mentor, I was like, I just received this text from Corey. What does this mean? And a couple of minutes later, he sent the emoji. He's like, you're dealing with woke Howard kids. So basically he was telling me, just get ready, because Howard kids are woke. And Howard University kids are woke, and it's in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it's not but a hop, skip, and a jump away to them. So they are actually, as a school, going over, they're making it one of their community service events to go and to protest what's going on. And on one hand, I'm like, yes, and on the other hand, I'm gonna be honest, I'm mom, so I'm like, Corey, but I never told him no. I just needed to know who he was going with, and then I thought like he was en route yesterday, and he's like, no, Mom, we're going a little later this week, but I did want to tell you before you possibly see my face on CNN, and I just told him, be careful, because, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about a couple weeks ago when we were talking about SNCC, Student Nonviolence, the Student Nonviolence, Conflict Committee, the Student Nonviolent Conflict Committee. And so basically, they were college kids, they were high school kids that were spearheading that effort. And so, I have to let him do what he's passionate about. And it's a noble cause. He could be passionate about something that is material, or that doesn't speak to social justice. He could be passionate about things that of no consequence, but he's passionate about this. So I had to just say, okay, well, let me know, and I just have to pray. I can't tell him no, I don't want you to go, because his generation is the generation that needs to react to what's going on. And his generation is going to do. And he said, Mom. And actually, Kevin, it's true, because he said, Mom, when things would go on around the country, Corey would do his own little protesting things in his high school, where, you know, he went to a predominantly white high school. They messed up and made him the president of the Black Student Association. First thing he wanted to do was rename the name of the Black Students Organization to the Black Panthers Rebooted. I was like, okay, maybe not that, Corey, but you know, he's doing what he feels like he needs to do.
Yeah.
How did you feel when I told you? Because I was like, damn it, Corey's going to Charlottesville.
Well, honestly, my first thought process was, how much money he gonna ask me for? Because, you know, people just, you gotta be honest, the revolution costs. You don't do it without no money. Like,
we found that out when we went to Washington.
Yeah, it costs you money if you're gonna be a revolutionary, and you're gonna go and fight a cause. It's gonna cost you something. So he ain't got no money.
Then when we found out it was a school thing.
Yeah, I was like, how much is this boy getting ready to ask me for? He can fight on the internet. Is what he can do. He can fight social justice right on his Facebook, Instagram page, and just put up good remarks on there.
But Kevin, this is kind of what we train him to do. Because if you remember,
you asked me what my first thought process was.
Okay.
And then my second thought process was, you know what? I don't know if this generation knows how ugly racism is. I don't know if they really realize how in depth that the hate that certain Americans have for other ethnic groups. And I said, I hope that when they go into this, they don't go in with it thinking this is just a particular fad or whatever.
And it can escalate very quickly.
It can definitely escalate. Some things weren't shown in mainstream media that happened in Charlottesville, even leading up to the gentleman ramming his car into individuals. It was conflict from the very night before, all the way leading up to that point. And African Americans were hit in the head, they were jumped, and I don't necessarily think that this generation understands how our generation didn't understand how in depth racism goes and how much hatred that these particular hate groups have for African Americans and minority groups. And my concern is that they go in knowing that if it's a time to fight, you can't play around. You got to be ready to deal with, they're not just trying to beat me up. They want to take my very life. So my concern is that that they do go onto the front line and they do fight for their cause and their beliefs, but they understand what they're walking into.
So we're gonna take a pause real quick. Everybody knows what time it is. We're asking you to go ahead and hit the share button. You don't have to click away from the screen. Just go ahead and hit the share button, guys. Hit the share button. Share. Hit the share button, guys. Let me see you. We get notifications when people hit the share button. So can I see the notifications pop up that you guys are hitting the share button? We're going to continue this conversation, but before we go on, we need to see the share buttons. Come on, everybody. Well, wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed.
That's right. We got to wake up. We got to wake up, black folk.
Kevin, there you go with your light skin, didn't it?
Yes.
Man. And
I'm militant Kev today. We got to, as a people, wake up.
Hit the share button, guys. We got to see notifications that you guys have hit the share button before we go on. Hit the share button. Hit the share button. Come on. Hit the share button. Come on. Hit the share button. Come on. All right now.
Anna, you're right. They don't teach it on a elementary or
Thank you guys
high school
for sharing.
level how in depth racism went and how much that hatred runs deep. It was a photo that was shared yesterday that really kind of like resonated with me and kind of
So
like.
are you talking about the black guy that was on the car and those white people were like jumping on him? He's a young black guy?
No, it was a little kid in a Ku Klux Klan outfit. He had to be about 4 years old. And this is a current picture. This was over this weekend. And he was up tapping on the police shield of a black police officer. And it taught me something, that racism isn't something that just, you know how people say they're born with certain things? Racism is something that's taught. Racism is something that's taught. And these individuals, these young guys that went ahead and done these heinous crimes this weekend and that was protesting for white supremacy were in their 20s.
So let me back up. So how it initiated was that we know in New Orleans, the Robert Lee statue was taken down in New Orleans. So there's one in Virginia.
Yes.
And it is scheduled to come down. So you had white supremacists, you had neo-Nazis, and you just had a bunch of hateful people come in to protest. Now, here's the thing. The thing that I found interesting was, and it's the same thing that often happens. I'm not going to say that there aren't racist people in Charlottesville. I'm not going to say that. Quite frankly, I do have something. I'm going to get back to that in 1 second. But there were a lot of outside instigators that were brought in. So these were people who came to be, there were outside instigators. They are running a wreck and running amok. So they are a lot of people that are brought in from the outside that get to wreak havoc on this community, and then they get to go back home. And you know, they're back at the ones that weren't arrested or whatever are back at their jobs today. You know, maybe they went back home. Yes, some of them went back home yesterday. So they get to come into this community, wreak havoc, and then leave. So I'm not to say that the entire so you know, they just. So anyway, today, so yesterday, as I was watching the recap news of what's going on in Charlottesville, I kind of like started scanning my mind, like, do I know anybody? Like anybody who lives in Charlottesville? It's weird. We have our friend, and I actually see that he just joined. Jamie. He kind of always teases me and Kevin because it's.
You gotta crawl.
So it's crazy because our friend Jamie, he kind of always teases me, and Kevin's like, who don't y'all know, or what type of situation? Because it's always like Kevin and I, so typically they talk about the 6 degrees of separation, but more often as the older we're getting and more life we're living, we notice that our 6 degrees of separation is more like 2, because even if it's like the aftermath. So anyway, I'm sorry that our connection keeps, but we are through that rough patch. Y'all need to listen, guys. Can y'all tell Sprint that we need a better tower so our Candy and Kev conversations won't get interrupted? But anyway, so I'm like, I wonder if we know somebody that's at Ground Zero, or if we know somebody that's from that area, you know. So I'm sitting, you know, yesterday just watching the news, scrolling through the Facebook, and lo and behold, a good friend of mine is actually, who lives in the Philadelphia suburbs now, is actually from Charlottesville. He's a white gentleman, and a good friend of mine, a very good guy, and he posted something on Facebook about what's going on in Charlottesville. I knew he was from Virginia, didn't realize, and I've known him for about 8 years, didn't realize that he was from Charlottesville. And he wrote a post in response to what's going on. And he goes on to say that he's very embarrassed and heartbroken and just disgusted by what's going on in Charlottesville. And he goes on to say that that's not the community that he knew. And, he just wanted to make it clear that that's not him. And he just wanted to, I guess, show that he's with us. He didn't point out African American people. He just said, for the people that these people are targeting, just please know I don't agree with them. I'm saddened to see this going on in my hometown, and he goes on and he's apologizing. I mean, it was a long post and he's apologizing. And I'm gonna be honest, Kevin, I've read that with mixed emotions. And I'm gonna tell what my mixed emotions were, and then I'm gonna let you respond. I know the guy personally. I've known him for about 8 years, and he's a good guy. And I know, because I've known him for about 8 years, I know that what he wrote was definitely from his heart. Not just patronizing African Americans, because there are some white people who, in times like this, I don't know, they just don't say the right things. But the way in which he worded it, and he was speaking from his heart of like, that's my hometown. I cannot believe that for the current like neo-Nazi and white supremacist ground zero is happening where he grew up. And he's very heartbroken. But so the mixed emotion was, and I don't want to say his name, but I didn't respond because I didn't know how to respond. So I just, one of those situations, I don't know what to say, so I just didn't say anything. But I kind of was like, dude, I get it, that, and I know you personally, and I know that's not you, but you can't apologize for a whole race of people that are just a-holes. So my mixed emotion was, I know you have a good heart, but your apology means nothing to me right now. So does that sound callous? That I'm like, I know you have a good heart, and I know you're a good guy, and I know, he's genuinely a good guy. Not a patronizing white person. He's genuinely a good guy. But your apology means absolutely nothing to me right now.
Well, let's take a look at the totality of the situation, and the reason why the racist individuals went there. And again, thank you everybody that joined us. The car conversation.
If you just joined, please go ahead and hit the share button. Please, please, please. Asking you to hit the share button. And Kevin does read the comments.
Yes.
And we will respond.
Typically, we typically try to have you guys laughing and all of that good stuff. But this is a conversation that actually we wanted to have with a little bit more of a intentional seriousness to it, because unfortunately, this is going to affect generations. This is a whole nother generation of racism that's popping up that again has been taught. To your point, Candy, with the gentleman, I understand his process, and looking at what sparked this was by that particular administration there was going to take down racist symbols. It shows me that community is trying to clean up a past situation. So I believe, like you said, individuals went there not even from Charlottesville, to do these heinous crimes and whatever. And again, I'm sure it's still a small portion is probably still racist that's there. So I understand. Again, thank you guys. I'm sorry for the going in and out. We apologize for that. Sprint sucks, and we said it's Sprint. So if you don't get your act together, we going to Verizon. I'm telling you right now. We can get Bubba off our plan now, But again, back to what I was saying. So we understand that particular community was actually making a stance to dismantle some
Robert Lee. So the history with Robert Lee is he was in,
Baby, I want to finish my thought.
I'm sorry.
So we understand that they were actually taking out symbols racist situations, and they were moving. The next step was to move to Richmond, Virginia, where it's still a Confederate flag flying, and so that was another place that they were actually in the process of eliminating those racist symbols of hate. And so these individuals went there, possibly from other areas. They formed a group, which they probably already had a network together to go and try to, speak and let their voice be heard, that they were against that or whatever. Now, the thing is, you can have your voice, you can say, I don't like this, I don't like that, but the problem becomes when you actually you stop talking and start doing action, such as running your car through a crowd of individuals, which those individuals killed one of their own. It was a young white lady that they killed. Regardless, it was a life, but it was one of their own that they killed. And which is just kind of like dumbfounded to me. It's like, you guys, I mean, it's just, these guys, from what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing, are not the most intelligent people in the world. But what irritates the living crap out of me is this administration that we currently have in, that actually made this rhetoric. David Duke said something. He tweeted a comment yesterday, I believe it was Saturday, based off of what Donald Trump said. And he said, don't forget who supported your campaign and voted your tail end. He didn't say it in that many words, but he pretty much put them on blast. Like, don't come up against the groups and the people that put you in office. And this man has never once denounced the hate groups themselves. He said, as a whole, meaning African Americans, everybody, this kind of action is unheard of. And another thing that bothers me is how stuff is portrayed in the media when it's an African American outcry to a disservice, and the way that it's done, the police activity, everything is done totally different than when it's African Americans that are on the front line screaming, Black Lives Matter or whatever. And it's just, this shows me that America has not come as far as we thought America has came. I mean, we are looking at a time where racism is now being allowed to rear its ugly head once again, like we said earlier in this broadcast, that we never thought racism left. But I believe that it's allowed it to say, look, we here again, what you gonna do? And at the end of the day, that's a question we have to ask all of ourselves. What are we gonna do?
So, did you address my question?
Yes, I did.
What was your address?
Your question? I said that I understand his thought process. I understand. It's just like him saying, okay, Candy, never mind.
No, I'm asking you, so did you understand why it was a mixed emotion?
No, not for you. I don't get it.
Okay. Here you go. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, that's what my theory was. I was holding it all. I let you go ahead. So
no, that's fine.
So
earlier we were saying how my son gave a call, and students from his university, they're going to Charlottesville later this week to protest the seemingly closed eye from the administration, who perpetuated such hate speech. Because one of the other things that David Duke had mentioned was that, in Trump's campaigning, he talked a good game about making America great again, and we knew what that meant by making America great again. So he talked a good game, but they're going to live out meaning the white supremacists and the neo-Nazis and these skinheads, their goal is to now live out Trump's campaign promises. And so, Trump, as my husband said, he was reminded very publicly, very openly on Twitter, his mode of conversing with the United States and America, and the world at large. Don't forget who put you in office. So, cool your jets. So
pretty much watch your mouth.
Right.
And so, it's just a shame. It's a sad day. Unfortunately, this is the man. I love our pastor. Our pastor he's not afraid to, after he ministers the word or before he ministers the word and get into the word, he will tackle social issues. And he said that a lot of this administration being in office is because people did not really get out and vote like they said they were going to. He said, so this is a result of us not going to the polls. And unfortunately, that's so true. It's a possibility we will have to deal with this man for the next 3 years. And America is, and I don't want to, how some people say America's in trouble and all that, and then you have the very religious individuals saying, well, God got us, and I believe that. I believe that God does have us, but my fear is that this man has made a total mess of not only just social situations that are going on, but he's made a mess of us dealing with foreign individuals where we're dealing with possibly having to go to war with a country that has been waiting to show their nuclear power. Been waiting, just like he is absolutely the worst thing that has ever happened to this country since Eisenhower, since Hoover. That's what I meant to say. Since Hoover, and unfortunately, because certain people didn't get out and vote, this is what we're subject to. We're subject to now looking at racist individuals that have now feel as though it's their right and they have a backing to say, look, we're going to say we want to say, we're going to do what we want to do because we know this particular administration in some kind of way are supporting us. And it's really sad. I have a son now that serves in the Marines, and the mere fact that it's a possibility that my son will have to actually be called into duty because of just the complete jackass such as, and I don't care, Donald Trump is complete jackass. I can't give him any other word. The Bible says never call a man a fool. This is one time I believe that this would be acceptable to call this man one, because of his arrogance and pride, and he don't know what else to say. He will challenge something that doesn't necessarily need to be challenged just to prove a point because of how he is. And I just believe that America, we really have to wake up and really take heed to what's going on around us and stop looking at all. I believe sometimes he'll allow other things to happen to kind of get us away from what's really going on with this administration. But it's really a sad state of affairs.
So while the presidential elections are, of course, very important, what's more important is the midterm election period. The midterm election period is highly important, and for some reason people don't really talk about that as much. The midterm election period is when we get to vote in our voices. Of course, with the presidential election, that's like, the commander-in-chief and all, but that's how we gain control of the House, the Senate, Congress, through the midterm elections. What we see taking place right now should definitely convince people of how important midterm elections are. So when midterms election come up once again, don't just, because for some reason people just really, they don't really come out to vote until it's the presidential election. While the presidential elections are clearly very important, the midterm election, the midterm electoral vote, that's where the power is. Because even if you have a crazy behind president, which we have, if we gain control of the House, of Congress, of the Senate, then, you know, these crazy things that the crazy president wants to pass won't go through, because we have control. We are right now dealing, a lot of the things that are going on now is taking place because we lost control of the power positions. And so even if we are stuck with Trump for, and I will say this, if he continues the furtherance of the instigation of war with North Korea, I don't see how he could stay in office. I really don't. But if we are stuck with Trump for the next 3 years, the midterm elections, Go ahead.
No, I was saying, I was agreeing with you. Midterm elections are probably more important than the actual voting of the president, because someone made a good point.
Anna, I'm not talking about the electoral college. I'm talking about the midterm elections for the House, the Congress, Senate. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the presidential vote. I'm talking about the midterm votes.
I think she was responding to when I said we didn't get our vote. She said we did. She said, but the electoral college voted him in. So that's why that goes to your point with the electoral. I mean the midterm elections. Why they're so important, because those are the individuals that actually voted him in. So the individuals that we don't feel like we went out and voted for, that's more important, and those are the individuals we have to get. We have to make sure that our vote is heard on, and make sure that we get those individuals out. So it's definitely, man, I just hate the fact that we're living in an age now where racism is very much alive and well again. It was always there. It never left. Yeah, it's just sad to see a generation that has everything going for them. They have to deal with some of this that we thought. And again, as you said, it never left. But I never thought that our children would have to deal with picketing and being.
But you know what? Here's the thing, though. We many times, and I remember a lot of my generation would say this. You know, that couldn't have been me back in the civil rights time, because if a white person would come up to me and I'd have done this, or I would have done this, or I would have done that. And because, you know, we weren't actively, you know, we weren't around for it. But guess what, guys? We're around for it now. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do? You know, so we have, and again, that's why I really couldn't, when my son goes to Charlottesville, am I going to be, a nervous wreck? Yes, because I'm a mom. However, I can't tell him not to go, because his is the generation that is going to affect change. And I have to let Corey be who Corey is. Corey didn't just go to Howard and became woke. This is kind of, if I had any hesitation about Corey going to an HBCU, it would have been just because of this. Because Corey, you know, and this is kind of what we raise our children to be. And Corey has really just taken it and run, because, you know, we went to the Women's March on Washington and we exposed our children to social justice causes and all these.
Did he go?
No, Kiana did.
Okay.
We expose our children to social justice causes and things of that nature. And so, you know, he's just living out what, you know, we've kind of encouraged him to be and to do. So
and that's and again, back to my only concern is, how do you respond when you've only seen racism from a distance?
I think it's going to be a wake-up call from him, for him.
And that's my prayer, and that's that God covers him, that when he sees it up close in your face, and somebody actually calling you a nigga.
Well, he said that in school.
With intentions of, listen, I want to do you, I don't like you because of the color of your skin, and I want to do you bodily harm. How do you deal with that? Because at the end of the day, that puts you sometimes you're driven by your emotions, and with being driven by your emotions, if you're driven by your emotions, sometimes you can do stuff in error. So my prayer is, God, cover him when he faces those individuals and racism is put directly in front of him and not from a distance, that you give him the wisdom how to handle himself. We can only teach him certain things, but once he's faced with it, because to be completely honest with you, I don't know how we will handle that.
So kind of looking at the comments, so Brandy said, I understand Candy, it's genuine that he's sorry about the situation, but he can't apologize for the actions that he didn't commit. And that's kind of like where I was going with that. Like, I understand his authenticity and his genuineness and his comments, but his apology doesn't make me okay. Still my friend, and he's still gonna be my friend. And I think that if he was sitting in the car with me right now, he would understand that I get it. You know, I'm gonna just say dude because I don't want to say his name, but that doesn't make me feel any less angry or any safer, because he was like, I want you guys to feel safe and know that there are white people who stand with you, and, you know, blah 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 blah. Yes, all fine and good, but you telling me I can be safe around you is not necessarily making me feel safe in general.
So let me ask you this. Do you think from a standpoint of him saying, so say, for instance, this is how I look at it. Say if somebody came to, I'll use something that's really, really a structured environment. Say if somebody came to Bethany for the first time, and you invited them. And say if somebody treated them wrong, and later on they told you this, would you not say, listen, this is not the totality of this whole church? I apologize. This is not a reflection on our whole church. You would, and I think in a sense that's what he probably was saying. I'm trying to gather.
Right. So, but this is what I'm saying though. So, given your situation, if he were to come to Bethany, which although we have, it's predominantly black, but we do have other ethnicities that are represented in our congregation. And if somebody says something off or racist to him, I could apologize. But if he decides never to come to church again because that was his only experience with church, I can't fault him for having the feelings that he has. And I can only feel bad that, dang, I invited you to church and somebody insulted you or made you feel unsafe or whatever. But I kind of get why this probably turned you off the church.
Okay. See, because I mean, it's like, you know how you're really passionate about your city. Thinking like, okay, he might be passionate about where he comes from, and he don't want people to think, oh, Charlottesville is a racist town. Please, I apologize. I don't want you guys to think this is how Charlottesville is. I'm a product of Charlottesville. This is not how the people of Charlottesville act. I'm just, because I didn't read the post, so I don't know the totality of it. Hold on, I got to address.
So that's what that. And so Vernon, you're saying that Trump would have won regardless. Now it's time to remove him before war breaks out. And Anna said people did vote. The electoral college did what they were put in place to do, override the people. And then Anna says people need to learn how the government works. What president has so many people resign in the first year? So this is why, again, the midterm elections are so important. We need to regain control of House, Senate, Congress, because, you know, the president is the president, but he just can't just do everything without the support of those governing bodies. And unfortunately, and then, I mean, it even goes up to the Supreme Court, because then the president would then put the nominates the Supreme Court justices and all of these things. But still in all, the checks and balances, the way the government works, the checks and balances is it should be like right now we're just in a Republican country all the way down the line. We gotta shake it up. We have to shake it up. If now than ever before, we see why the midterm elections are so very important. And just like there are all those campaigns, you know, to rock the vote and all these things and all these mega stars and, you know, forces get behind the presidential election, we need the same people to educate the country at large about, because there are a huge segment of people that don't understand the true importance of the midterm elections. Listen, the Bible tells us, you know, there are some people that, well, I'm praying, hey, but watch as well as pray. You know,
or fight. I say bust them back in the head.
You know, it was the student, the reason why, so my son, you know, he texts me, Mom, the school, we're going to Charlottesville later this week, and I can't tell him no, because it was the SNCC, it was the Student Nonviolent Confrontation Committee, and they were students, college students, high school students, that formed this coalition to protest and to fight for civil rights. And so basically my son is letting me know that he is that generation. He's being a part of you know, of the SNCC of his time to go. And you know, I'm just praying God's covering over him. As my husband said, like, I'm just all the way around just kind of like, huh, because we have our son that's in the military with this crazy president. You know, Guam is on high alert right now. Hawaii is on high alert right now. Because they're the ones that would feel the brunt of this, of this asinine president of ours. And then he wants to bring what's his name? Obama back into this. No. This is all you're doing. He has basically, Trump has painted himself into a corner. He talks all this, you know, and the good old boys they know the language.
Make America
they
great
knew
again.
What make America great again meant. And now, they're like, so that was just part of your campaign rhetoric. So what we're about to do is we're going to help you. We're going to live out and we're going to fulfill your campaign rhetoric for you. We're going to fulfill your campaign promises for you. And you better remember who got you there. So basically, by getting in bed with all these groups and getting the support of these, you know, groups that represent white supremacies and the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis. Now he has painted himself into a corner, and they're calling him out very publicly.
And clearly, he got in bed with the devil. Now he was dealing with baby kids. I mean, it's ridiculous that in a day and time where we're living in it, we have to now deal with the racist stuff publicly in our face, like, you know. And this is the crazy thing is, I believe that if we ever get to the place where it's a racial war,
civil war,
minorities are going to be dealt with from a different realm than the other counterparts are going to be dealt with. When it comes to police brutality and all of that kind of stuff, I believe we're going to be hit harder than they would ever be hit. They disbanded. This is what's crazy. They disbanded the Black Panther Party, but the Ku Klux Klan, the neo-Nazi group, the skinheads,
white
supremacists are still going strong, and these were groups of hate. These were groups that displayed that they would burn crosses, hang people, and all of that. When black people came together and decided that, you know what, we are no longer going to allow you to beat up on us. We're going to protect ourselves. We're going to protect our communities. The FBI disbanded the group that said we're going to protect our own. The FOI have a different religious belief than we have, but at the end of the day,
FBI, he's at FOI.
No, Fruit of Islam. When they came together and put together a organization that said, listen, we're going to protect our own communities. We're going to police our own communities. We're going to protect. We're going to, you know, that was the FBI came against that and began to try to disband them. So anytime African Americans come together to create a group that says, listen, we're going to protect our own. Look at even today's time, how even when the Black Lives Matter movement came about, people were, why do it's only Black Lives Matter? It's always something that when minorities come together and say, listen, we're not going to stand for this, we're going to fight against injustice, it's always a cry of why it's only you guys. Well, it's because we're the only ones that individuals, it seems like, that go through what we go through, and I don't want to say just us, but minority groups. So it's just I gotta be quiet now, because I'm light skinned, and you know I get angry real quick, and I might cuss just because it makes me feel good when I do that.
And so Vernon said, I believe anyone that becomes president was pre-selected and put in place for that position for their agenda, NWO, which is New World Order. So I will say this. I will say there's always an agenda. There's always have and always been. But unlike the thing that was very disheartening is that people will use that thought process to encourage other people, don't vote because your vote doesn't matter. I do not believe that. I think that if they're going to steal an election, then we need to make it hard for them. Okay? We're not just supposed to lay down and die and lay down and just give it up. You know, there is this, and it's so funny because as we were riding over, as we were riding over the bridge, I saw a Greek acronym, right, that I've seen a lot, and it's taken from this was shown in the movie Spartacus. And so when my trying to think of a delicate way to say this, but when, you know, my son had gone through boot camp, I remember seeing a gentleman with those Greek letters on his arm. And me being me, if you know me personally, then you know that I'm a very inquisitive person. I go up, and when I don't understand something, don't know what something is, I don't have a problem with asking. So I walked up to him and I asked him, I said, those Greek letters, what is that on your tattoo? And it was a commanding officer, but you know, hey, at the end of the day, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. I said, what's that tattoo about? And he says, oh, it's from Spartacus. And he told me what it means. And so it's basically because I want to make sure I say it correctly, but it's basically it alludes to the fact of we're not going. So if you remember the Spartan soldiers, they weren't many, but they were, at the end, it wasn't many. Remember the movie 300? It wasn't many, but they were fierce. They protected themselves from the Roman Empire and Roman rule. They were like, listen, we know that you guys outnumber us, but we're not just gonna lay down. We're gonna make this hard for you. So basically, we're not laying down. If you want it, come take it. We're not surrendering. You come take it, and take it by force, because we're not surrendering. And so it was ironic, because as we're having this conversation, somebody had that on the back of their window. It was on they had it as a sticky on the back of their window. So he was telling me, he's like, yeah, it's the Spartacus the thing. And I was like, oh, okay. And I watch, and I'm a nerd, I'm a big buff of all of the Roman Empire history. I studied it a lot. I watched every single documentary, not just the movies. I watch documentaries. I listen to podcasts. I'm very, very intrigued with Roman and the history. So anyway, what I discovered was that now there are white supremacist groups who are taking on this motto. There are now, the NRA has now taken on this motto. We're not giving up our guns. If you want it, you're going to have to come and get it. We're not laying down our arms. And so I say all this. So as Kevin was talking, I was thinking that's the mentality that we have to begin to adopt. Like Kevin was saying, they shut down the Black Panther Party. They shut down FOI. But these other groups, they're allowed to exist because they don't just surrender. Like even as our vote, we can't just give up our vote. We have to say, no, if you want to take away my voting privileges, you're going to have to come and take it by force, because I'm going to exercise it. Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, I didn't.
I'm looking it up.
Okay. So again, I know you guys are used to us coming on here, making you laugh, bringing couples together, but this is an issue. One of the things that Candy and Kev are really big about is dealing with social issues and handling it head on. It's our desire, possibly sometime this weekend, if possible, to even go down to Charlottesville, to tell to a live location, to get some stories, to see what the climate is down there right now, and to be a part of it. We weren't really led to go there this weekend. Reason being because we had other things to handle and take care of. Go ahead.
So I'm sorry. So the quote, I can't say it in the Greek because I'm not Greek, but the quote translated into English basically says, "Come and take them." So when I was down when my son was graduating boot camp, the commanding officer, he had the Greek letters on his forearm, and I asked, he's like, oh well, it's from the Spartan. So basically Leonidas was told to surrender. He was over the Spartan army, and he's like, no, we're not going to surrender. If you want the Spartans, you got to come and take them. But the NRA, they adopted that. And basically that's what the white supremacists and all these other groups have adopted, that same mentality of, oh, we're not going to stop us. If you want us to stop, you're going to have to come and forcibly remove us.
Yes.
We acquiesce. I say we because collectively, I'm not saying you, I'm saying we. You have to, your vote does matter. Don't give up your vote just because you think that, oh well, they've already, it's a fixed election anyway. So there are too many people who lost their lives for our little ballot.
Yeah,
for that piece of paper.
Yeah.
And for you to say, oh, it doesn't matter. It mattered enough to people not very long ago, if you really stop to think about it, that they would lay down their lives for a piece of paper.
I have friends that I don't even respond to when they say, well, it doesn't matter if I vote or not, or my vote doesn't matter because they're going to do what they want anyway. That's what they want you to think. That's what they want you to think. Don't be bamboozled by that. I sometimes it irritates me because the level of ignorance that sometimes we allow ourselves to express amongst, and you never know who's following you, who you have their ear that'll say, you know what, well, such and such said they ain't gonna vote, so I'm not gonna vote neither.
And then for people to say, well, I don't like anybody, so I'm just not gonna.
Yeah.
And then encourage other people.
Yeah, why are you voting? It doesn't matter. They're gonna do what they want anyway. Shut up. Shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. So listen, y'all, I have to get ready to go into the office. So we appreciate you joining the Candy Kev. Pray for us.
And I really do think, and you're right, Kevin, if this is important enough for our son to feel like he needs to go down there and to be at ground zero, then we're going to go down there too.
Yes, instead of him coming here, we're going to go there, take him everything he needs, and if we have to go, and take him even if the school doesn't, we're going to put a couple of college kids in the car, and hopefully their parents sent them money so they can feed themselves, because I'm not feeding your kids. I'm going to tell you now, the revolution, I will not be feeding nobody's children. And tomorrow, please join us again, 7:15 in the morning. Tomorrow will be Slapper Races Day.
Do y'all realize, let me just say that this will be the last thing we say on this. Trump has incited a war.
I just want to go piss on the White House grounds.
Trump has incited a war within our borders.
Yes, and then
Trump has also incited a war outside of our border. How in the world do you manage a civil war here on our land, as well as North Korea trying to come in? So we're basically in the middle of fighting each other. So think about it. Think about it. How does the enemy bust up a house? Get y'all fighting each other, because then I can do a sneak attack, and y'all busy fighting each other that y'all don't even realize or see me coming.
Yeah. So listen, everybody, again, and I agree with you, Tania, prayer, we do have to pray. Tanya, we do have to pray for this country, but at the same time, while we're praying, we have to put on our bootstraps and start getting involved and start, making changes happen, start forcing changes to happen. And while it might be a sector of folk that are praying, it's going to have to be a sector of folk that's saying, I'm going to get out here and do what we need to do.
And it's, listen, and like the Spartan said, when they tell us to give up our rights, no, I'm not giving up my right. If you want my rights, if you think I didn't earn my rights or my ancestors didn't earn my rights for me, no, I'm not giving them up. You come and take them.
Yeah, so listen.
Come and take them.
Everybody, thank you for joining us again. We love you guys. Continue. Next stop this week.
You know what, baby? I think I'm going to just wear a fro all week this week. I'm not straightening my hair all week.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be woke all week.
And Negroes like this to think their hair is going to make the complete statement to stop this foolishness.
And I'm going to walk around like this at work today.
Lord Jesus. Y'all have a great one. May heaven smile upon you is our prayer. Peace out. We love you.
Wait, I do want to know this, though. I understand this. But I want to know what the African-American people who voted for Trump and think that he was the solution to America, what are you thinking now?
Yeah. Peace out, because this is your fault.
Did you know this? Amoroso Manigault got laughed at and booed at the Black Journalists Convention.
Yep, I told y'all when she got involved, the best thing Omarosa ever did was make rolls for cheesesteaks and get a boob job. Y'all have a great one. We out. Yes, I said it. That's the best thing she ever did. Peace.